by Archer. We've watched many videos of his before. He is the One Piece GOAT. I always go to his Twitter for good One Piece takes and good One Piece information. And he has made a video literally called "What is the One Piece? The greatest One Piece theory you will ever watch." So we are going in with a very critical but very open mind. We are looking at all the evidence, we are examining all the evidence, and we're coming to one critical conclusion about whether or not this is indeed the One Piece. Very quickly, common One Piece theories. Bottle of sake, the manga itself, big treasure, and the friends we made along the way. Some of these have been disproven, some of them have not been disproven. Is it one of them? I guess we'll find out. Let's get right into it. It's a 24-minute video, which means we're probably going to spend an hour talking about it. It's gonna be fun.
The One Piece. Have you ever noticed how if you translate the lyrics of Bing Sasaki from Japanese, they detail the entire story of the Void Century? So if we were to translate them, we could find out all the secrets in the story, including the true identity of the One Piece treasure. In this video, I'm going to tell you about every major mystery in the story, including who really were the people of the ancient kingdom of the God Country, the true identity of the mother of Dalford's Inu-sama, the purpose of the ancient weapons, the real meaning of the D initial, and who Joy Boy's true identity really was. But stick until
hot take, I'm still not convinced that either Joy Boy or Nika even existed. I'm more so thinking that Nika doesn't exist and that Joy Boy did exist, because Joy Boy has an actual promise. I think Nika is just a made-up concept. We'll see.
the end, because I'll even tell you what I believe to be the true identity of the One Piece treasure, something that once you finally find out will flip your very understanding of this series upside down, to the point that just like Roger, I promise you, it will simply make you laugh.
Tell me more.
I legitimately believe I'm not exaggerating. This is the culmination of 7 years of research. I've devoted my life to study One Piece, and I promise you that by the end of this, I will deliver to you the greatest One Piece theory you've ever watched. So I'm going to be straight with you from the get-go. I think that the One Piece treasure is...
just like going back, you know what the funniest thing about this is?
So I'm going to...
This picture right here, the fact that I immediately recognized that this is like the meme board, even though I literally saw it for 2 seconds zoomed in. I use this picture too much.
With you from the get-go.
It's such a good picture.
The One Piece treasure is Bing Sasaki, the laugh tale that Roger named the final island after, a story that, if you translate its lyrics, details the events of the Void Century in the form of a song that makes anyone who listens to it laugh in joy. But wait, well, I've brought up this idea in the past. I don't think it's just Bing Sasaki, or rather, we need to ask ourselves what actually really is Bing Sasaki. Is it really just a song? I mean, if it's a song that has no material form, then how can this song be found as a physical treasure if it's always been with us the entire time? I mentioned in a previous video that perhaps the concept of Bing Sasaki could be embodied in the form of an actual physical sake waiting at last.
This is one I've heard a lot, right? That is just a bottle of sake, which I think would be very neat.
Deal, so that one day Joy Boy can help deliver that sake just like the song indicates, to throw a massive party. But I think some people took that literally as the treasure itself being the sake itself, but I feel the sake has to be more of a symbolic complementary thing, as
Definitely.
I mentioned in that video. After all, why would Roger laugh at just a bottle? And didn't Roger describe the actual treasure as a laugh tale, a funny story that causes people to laugh? So it would make sense the One Piece treasure itself is Bing Sasaki, but it has to be something more specific than just a song. It has to be an actual physical treasure.
Yeah, this is something that I feel like every single person who has read One Piece, talked about One Piece, experienced One Piece, always falls into the trap of it was the friends we made along the way. I was one of them. I was watching the first arcs and I was like, I figured it out. I don't think the One Piece exists. Like, no, it does exist.
Describe the One Piece treasure as something capable of turning the world upside down. However, this is a term that is often mistranslated to meaning a big war or conflict within the community, but actually the Japanese words used here more accurately translate to a social change, meaning that the One Piece is something that when spread won't necessarily cause a big war that's likely going to be before the treasure is found, as Oda has actually confirmed in an interview several times, but rather could change the future of the people of the world for the better. The One Piece is something that can change society itself. But then, what kind of treasure could even do that? What is the treasure Roger left to at the final island? Okay, so if you're new to this channel, you may not know that something we often do is explaining and translating a lot of things that often get lost in translation.
Like, this literally happened. I put out a Attack on Titan video, right? And obviously in Attack on Titan, there are certain things with language that are incredibly important, right? Like, there are literally pieces of information that certain characters should not possess, like in terms of language. As it turns out, most of the things that we talk about, like plot holes, they're mistranslations. Not even in the dubs, in the subtitles. Like, even a small thing, like this is, I guess, non-spoilery, but like ape and monkey is technically the same thing in Japanese. It's not the same thing in English. So even small things like that, so many of these things get lost in translation, and I will never learn about them. Which I've come to the conclusion that the only way to fix this is just to learn Japanese. I'm not gonna do it. It's too hard.
From Japanese, so consider subscribing for more stuff like this. But when you translate the lyrics of Being Sasaki, the verses start speaking.
Let me move my face, and we'll read through this very, very quickly. Because I've seen many theories stemming from Film Red about Being Sasaki. Let's go to deliver Being Sasaki. Let the sea breeze and the waves carry us beyond the tide. The sunset goes wild. A song of birds draw in circles to the sky. Okay, this isn't terribly foreshadowy. This is just kind of like about freedom.
Speaking of an ancient kingdom who lost their hometown but believe that someone in the future will fulfill their dream of the dawn by bringing the destruction of the world and delivering the proverbial Being Sasaki, and I believe this is because Luffy's true dream is to throw the biggest party in the world, but not just a big party, one with every person in the world, one when he can unite the entire world together and thus share Being Sasaki with all of them. Gathering all people from all over the world would be impossible, but if you were able to destroy the barrier separating the world with the ancient weapons and bring a new dawn to this world,
so this is
which,
like
again,
uniting
are all
the
things
seas
that are mentioned in the lyrics of Being Sasaki, then perhaps such an impossibility could become a reality. Roger was too early for this. This line is often mistranslated as referring to the One Piece treasure, but chapter 968 already confirmed Roger was too early because the ancient weapons were not born yet, and thus the dawn of the world could not take place, and the societal change that the treasure is meant to bring could not yet happen, and this was likely the goal of the D clan, the people of the incredibly advanced kingdom of the Void Century. Let's recap for a moment. As we've been told, the Void Century is the story of the conflict between a certain immense kingdom, composed by the people of the D clan, versus an alliance of 20 human kings. This kingdom was aptly described as immense, but I don't think that refers to very little size, but rather to the fact that this kingdom spanned over the whole world, as it was likely composed by many smaller kingdoms that were united together as allies, almost like a pirate crew all united as one piece. All of these allies can be traced by the fact that they share the emblem of the sun.
Yeah, this is something we've seen recently, right? This pattern of the sun thingy, like, looking back, it's in a lot of things. Whether it's a retcon doesn't really matter. Like, the presence of a sun is everywhere.
Seen among all of their flags. In fact, the name of this kingdom, which Clover mentioned...
Which again brings me back to the whole, I don't think Nika might even be like a physical person. I don't think it might even be a thing that exists. I think it's just a concept. And I think like Joy Boy was created because of that concept. We'll see.
As a critical hint to the identity of its people, may very well have been the Kingdom of D, or the Kingdom of Dawn, composed by the Clan of the Dawn. This is because the aim of these people was to bring forth the dawn of the world, a new era where all people in the world could live under the same sun, what Otohime always said about the sun being a symbol of equality, unity, and friendship. This ideal was symbolized in the form of Joy Boy, a figure from the Void Century whom slaves and oppressed people across the world began to idolize and venerate as the sun god, seeing him as the incarnation of the dream of living under the same sun and begging him to deliver.
The only thing that makes me think about this a lot is like the symbolism of the straw hat, right? Because a straw hat is meant to protect you from the sun. That's the one thing that now has gotten me a little bit caught up on why do we have a supposed sun god who brings about the dawn, but his symbol is a straw hat, the thing that protects you from the sun. Very, very fishy. Devil fruits are just people's wishes brought to reality, so Nika not being real makes sense. Exactly, and that's what I think it is. I think like Joy Boy was manifested because of their belief in Nika, right? That's sort of my headcanon right now. So his wings don't melt?
liberation. After all, we've been told through several accounts about how horrible the world was prior to the Void Century, with many races and people being oppressed or persecuted by the tyrant kings of the human kingdoms, those that would become the celestial dragons, who were so evil that at the time, many referred to them by the name of devils, whereas instead Joy Boy and his allies were called gods, as before Marie-Joie at the top of the red line was the god country, the settlement of the Lunaria. As it was confirmed by King, the Lunaria were some of Joy Boy's closest allies. This is because the Lunaria, as their name indicates, were part of the moon folk who descended from the moon, or Luna in Latin, from which they brought their incredibly advanced technology that we saw during Annel's cover story. They shared their technology with the rest of the kingdom, biggest of all being their discovery of the bloodline elements, the genetic code of the One Piece world. As Yonji once described, the bloodline elements represent a step into the realm of godhood, which is why the Lunaria came to be known as gods, and may even be the reason behind their incredible genetic superiority.
Complete side note, characters with completely white hair are always badass. Can you think of a single character who has white hair who is not a badass? Exactly.
Above all their races, and why they look so different from the other angel tribes. However, this technology of the bloodline elements was also put to use by a certain ally of the kingdom who presented the Lunaria with the idea to develop special fruits that allowed anyone who ate them to evolve far into the future. The myth of the creation of devil fruits states that the fruits are the incarnations of the sea devil, who blessed people with these fruits but cursed them to drown in water forevermore. But as we know, the devils of the Void Century were none other than the 20 human kings, which means that the sea devil that created...
We're not going to ignore Davy Jones, right? Hold on. I'm gonna let him cook, but the devil of the sea is literally Davy Jones's locker.
The devil fruits had to be one of them, King Nerona Imu. The myth says that Umi, the sea itself, hated devil fruit users and thus forced them to drown in water. But the truth could be that Imu purposefully made devil fruits weak to water, as that would mean they would not be able to pose their power as the sea. This betrayal would even explain how Imu earned their trust to attain the world-destroying power of one of the ancient weapons, taking advantage of their trust by betraying them and forming an alliance of 20 kings in secret to overthrow the god country. These 19 devils followed Imu, the sea devil, which is why these fruits came to be known as the devil fruits. We essentially have an Adam and Eve scenario where the devil used the devil fruit tree Eve, found at the top of the red line of the god country, to trick and expel its inhabitants from the realm of God, from their Garden of Eden. And as Imu managed to pull off this gambit, history was rewritten, and what were once considered devils, the human kings, instead became the gods of the worlds, the celestial dragons. However, as Imu became king of the world, they decided to disappear from public eye and rule from the shadows to give people an illusion of equality. As such, with Imu's presence vanishing from history, the conflict of the Void Century became...
Which, by the way, I want to hear this full explanation, because to me, Imu vanishing from the world is not a retreating in the shadows and commanding the world from the shadows to give a sense of equality. I think there is more to Imu, because I don't think ruling the world from his little igloo makes sense. Like, from someone who's supposed to be all power hungry, ruling the entire world but living in this little bubble, to me seems fishy. Like, unless there was like body switching shenanigans or something, I kind of don't buy it. I don't know though. Let's see.
And legend, the myth starring the warrior of liberation Joy Boy, a kid who could deliver joy to people by being silly and wacky with his bizarre, stretchy, rubbery superpowers, someone who could turn his imagination into reality, making dreams come true, and was a symbol of light, embodying the bright warmth of the sun, the dawn. On the other hand, his enemy, the Sea Devil, was instead darkness incarnate, a devil who took on freakish forms to turn nightmares and people's worst fears into reality. So the figure of Joy Boy eventually took form as the Hito Hitonomi model Nika. And see, this is where it comes full circle, because Joy Boy is the living embodiment of Bing Sasaki. I mean, why else would Luffy, when transformed into Nika, start singing lyrics from Bing Sasaki? Why else is he mentioning the dawn of the world in his Nika attacks, if not for the fact that it's part of the lyrics of Bing Sasaki? Why else is he... laughing all the time if not for the fact that laughter is the main chorus of Bing Sasaki. And why else is the rhythm of the drums of liberation the same as Bing Sasaki, don do to to, yo ho ho ho? Because Nika is literally the personification of this song,
What if Bing Sasaki is simply a song written about Joy Boy and Nika? Just how songs in the real world are written about gods. Maybe there's a bit of reverse causality. Let's let him cook.
this laugh tale. But why? Why is Luffy literally a walking One Piece? And what really is Bing Sasaki? Is it really just a song? But as I said, if it's a song, then we already have it. What else could be waiting at Laugh Tale? What is the physical treasure that Roger laughed to that is the One Piece? This mystery seems to have no definitive answer. In isolation, none of this makes sense, but if you try and turn it on its head, suddenly it all makes perfect sense. The reason why we could never figure out this mystery is because we've all been working under a completely wrong assumption all these years regarding Joy Boy's existence that we always took for granted even though it was never confirmed in the manga. Because Joy Boy is not a real person.
Oh.
In fact, if we go back through the manga, it's
Okay.
never been stated that Joy Boy was necessarily a real human being. In fact, several characters didn't bring into question
So basically, I'm assuming he's going to make the opposite point that I did, right? That Nika existed, but Joy Boy didn't.
he was even real to begin with. Did he exist, or did people just dream him up? And that's when you realize, what does the word Joy Boy even mean? Is it a title or an epithet? No, it's a lot simpler than that. Joy Boy is a superhero nickname. Much like Superman, or more literally Superboy and other superheroes like Astro Boy, or even the in-world Sora Warrior of the Sea, Nika is a comic book superhero, the warrior of liberation, a boy whose superpower is to
I can call the ending of this video. The ending of this video is that the One Piece is the One Piece manga.
deliver joy to people. After all,
And
Luffy
Luffy
has
is
eaten a mythological
the main
zone
character.
fruit, meaning that Joy Boy is a mythological figure, or rather, a fictional character. In reality, Joy Boy is the protagonist of the fictional laugh tale that is the One Piece. The One Piece treasure found on the final island of Laugh Tale is the manga version of Bing Sasaki. We always took it for granted that Joy Boy had to be an actual person from the Void Century, that we never stopped to think the possibility of him just being a fictional cartoon character. And yet so much of his story meant to the people of the Void Century in the same way that One Piece means so much to us that some began to venerate this fictional figure like a god, bring to
I think a lot of people wouldn't like this sort of ending because it doesn't feel tangible to us, if that makes sense. It's kind of... It makes sense, and you know, it is all about the journey, but I don't know how people would react if that's what it was. Okay, let's let him cook. Let's let him cook, then we'll talk about
somehow
it.
be real, a dream that eventually resulted in the existence of the Nika fruit. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that an actual Joy Boy didn't exist in some form during the Void Century. After all, it was mentioned that Zunisha was Joy Boy's nakama, and there's even the poneglyph found at fish.
This is what I mean, right? There's a tangible message supposedly left by Joy Boy himself, which is why I think it's the other way around. I think Nika is made up.
An island, the apology to Joy Boy's name. But this would all still make sense. Either Joy Boy is a fictional character who is based on a historical figure, or, a lot more simply...
To be fair, a lot of people aren't going to like the ending no matter what, so, exactly, right? No matter what the... I've said this a million times. No matter what the ending to One Piece is, there will be a lot of angry people. It's hard to say what, like, the split will be, but it doesn't matter because of just how big One Piece is. There will be people that are very, very disappointed, absolutely no matter what the outcome is, and I think that is fine. I think that is perfectly fine. I personally don't care. At the end of the day, it's been so long that I'm just here for the ride, you know? Only thing that can maybe make it tangible is that the One Piece is some kind of fourth wall break, but that not only breaks space, but also the concept of time. Yeah, I don't know. If it was just like the... Like, it would feel... It would be a very, very bittersweet ending, I think, right? Because on one hand, it's like we just experienced what the One Piece is, quite literally, right? So if the One Piece is literally the story of One Piece, on one hand, it's perfect. It is absolutely perfect. We went on this ride, and just like Luffy says, he doesn't even care about the ending. It was all about the journey. It's perfect. At the same time, though, it does feel like, oh, so we already knew the answer, you know? It has that sort of weird, bittersweet vibe to it that I don't know how I would react. Let's let him cook.
While
Let's
Joy
see.
Boy is a fictional character, there are those who incarnate him through his fruit. It is likely that Joy Boy's story already existed during the Void Century, being the story that inspired the people of the Ancient Kingdom to attain their freedom and deliver joy to the world, and so in that way, that dream of becoming like Joy Boy, being as free as him, took form in the form...
Also, by the way, the fact that we can't forget the fact that despite like depictions that we saw in like, I don't know, like Skypiea, right? That they are like super old and stuff. The kingdom that Joy Boy was a part of was super advanced. So they could have even more advanced technology than we have IRL. So a fictional comic book about a Joy Boy could legit have existed because they were even more advanced, you know? So that makes sense to me. Like in terms of culture. It's not going to be like some historical artifact. But you know.
Of a certain fruit that
What if it's some kind of loop by knowing he starts it all over again? I mean, it's just like One Piece suddenly becomes like a weird time loop where Luffy is always destined to find the One Piece because it's going to start another One Piece. Incredible.
influential figure within the Ancient Kingdom, likely 8, making him the Joy Boy of
Oda waiting for them on Laugh Tale? That'd be perfect.
the Void Century. But because people wished for his existence and to save them all, the Hito Hitonomi model Nika was born. Devil fruits are born because all things that are wished for are born upon this world. Literally explained how the Nika fruit came to be from the dream of Joy Boy somehow being real. Just like Who's Who said, people dreamed him up and made his existence real.
Yeah, this I absolutely buy. I think like if we take Vegapunk's explanation as correct, then dreaming up a legendary savior makes perfect sense why Nika exists and why Luffy's fruit exists. That explains that to a T. Which is again why I think at least one of them is a made-up concept that actually never existed. Though him being a fictional character, I don't know.
Becoming Joy Boy isn't inheriting a title, it just refers to those who ate the fruit and became the character itself, with the people of the kingdom wishing that someday in the future, the fruit would choose someone else once again who could become a new Joy Boy and inherit their dreams. What if maybe the exact opposite thing even happened with someone like Imu? Much like Joy Boy, Imu appears to be very cartoonish in their transformations. So what if Nerona Imu was a king from the Void Century who, much like the Joy Boy of the Ancient Kingdom, became the form incarnate of the Sea Devil, the cartoonish villain from Joy Boy's story, which would explain why Emo is just as cartoonish as Joy Boy, because both of these characters are the opposites of light and darkness from the same story, and both were incarnated by users of their respective fruits during the Void Century. But while there may have been a historical precedent, the figure of Joy Boy specifically in and of itself, as we see it in Luffy's Gear 5, is very much a cartoon character, literally something straight out of a comic strip as Kaido described it. And this is why he is so outlandishly cartoonish in his attacks, because the original story
like there are so many people putting like Tom and Jerry and Gear 5 side by side and it matches up perfectly. I love it.
Meant to be
I love Gear 5 so much.
Tale, a funny comic romanticizing the story about how the warrior of liberation sought to deliver the proverbial Bing Sasake to unite the world together under the same sun in a massive party, delivering laughter to all in that way. Because after all, what is it that happens when you read the manga and see Luffy using Gear 5? We laugh. It's funny, wacky, and silly in ways that it uncontrollably makes us laugh, just like the Roger Pirates did when they first saw it. As the Gorsei explained, Nika was a hero that brought laughter to people's faces by acting silly and being ridiculous. That's why Roger described the One Piece as a laugh tale and why he named the island after it. In fact, we can even see the One Piece manga with our own eyes as Roger holds it in chapter 967. Wait, what? Yeah, this is a detail that I'm surprised a lot of people don't know about, but we literally see the physical One Piece treasure in
Hey, yo.
Chapter 967, as Roger can be seen holding a certain yellowish colored item.
No, hold up. No, 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 no. I mean, it's so small. No shot.
You can check your volume if you want, it's there, and this is no mistake, nor is it something like...
Okay, that is not a mistake. Okay, what? That literally couldn't be anything else. Like, he's literally looking down at something, and it's small enough. What? No shot.
Like Roger's coat or his sword or an impact line. Trust me, I've checked. Rather, it's a physical item that Roger is intentionally holding with his hands.
Yeah, exactly. This is exactly how my brain filled it in. It literally can't be anything else. Okay,
And is
hold
directly looking down as he exclaims, "Oh, Joy Boy, what a ridiculous treasure that has been left behind. What a ridiculous laugh tale." He's literally describing the laugh tale of Joy Boy because Roger was literally holding what looks to
could be a
be
straw hat.
like yellowish paper, like the pages of an old book, or even if you want to be more direct, Volume 1 of the One Piece manga, Bing Sasaki, the One Piece. Roger was literally reading peak fiction to his crew, and that is why they were all laughing together, singing and dancing to the tune of Bing Sasaki as they read of the silly actions of Joy Boy. This is why Roger said he wished to have been born in Joy Boy's era, not because the treasure was left behind by Joy Boy, but because Joy Boy is the protagonist of the treasure itself, and Roger was...
The only thing, I think I'm starting to realize why it fits, and it fits perfectly, and why I like it, but why I also don't like it. I think if it were to just be like a comic strip, it makes perfect sense in like Luffy's narrative. But when I think about the things we've seen, especially recently, like with Ginny and stuff, right? It feels kind of like it feels oddly immature that if it's just this book that will magically unite the world, you know? Because obviously One Piece has united many, many people, including us right now. And it's very funny, it's very goofy, we all love it. But considering the material that we've seen in One Piece, it feels weirdly naive, if that makes sense. At the same time, we are talking about Luffy. So, I don't know. I have very mixed feelings on this, but I hate how perfectly it fits.
Like referring not to the era of the Void Century, but the era of the present, because he wished he could have seen Luffy as Joy Boy with his own eyes, regretting he had to die before ever meeting Luffy. But then, what's the point of the One Piece being Bing Sasaki? How can a manga change the world? Well, to answer that, we only need to take a look at the cover of Volume 1, where if we simply zoom out, we can see the One Piece itself, the manga. Because to ask how One Piece can change the world, you need to ask yourself this first. How has One Piece changed your own world? At first glance, One Piece seems to be a comic that is silly and ridiculous. I mean, look at those exaggerated designs and comical art style. It seems like a goofy laugh tale whose purpose is to only draw laughter out of you. But then you start reading it and realize how it's so much more than that. It's a profound story, one that tackles very serious social and existential issues that plague the communities of our world. Yet it manages to explore such profound themes while still being a silly pirate story that is meant to make you laugh. It's one that teaches you to become a better person and to share that joy with other people. And thanks to that, many people who have read One Piece have managed to become better people. I won't deny that if it wasn't for One Piece, I likely would have gone down a very dark path in my life, rather than wanting to share that joy with others. It teaches many of us to throw away things like hatred and racism, discrimination, segregation, and fear, to instead embrace joy, laughter, unity, and equality, to convince the people from the world to all come together to just party and share life together. Maybe the same could be said of the in-world One Piece story, Being Sasaki. It likely tells the tragic story of the Void Century, but romanticizes it in a goofy way with a cartoon style that makes it more appealing to those who read it. I mean, how can we change the world? There's only so much we can do, but realistically the ones that can change the world are future generations, our children, a theme that has been established even within the story of One Piece itself. It is important that we educate future children to think freely, to think for themselves, and to overcome their fears to instead share that equality, love, and joy with others. And while education can help do that, of course, a story will be able to do that even better. It is a more effective form of education, as those who become enamored with this world and story will want to make such values a reality in their own lives. And that's how the One Piece treasure will change the history of the One Piece world. If the story of Being Sasaki is delivered to all across the world, future children who will grow up with it will not only understand the truth of the world, but will want to embrace that freedom and joy this story transmits.
Complete side note, I still really like the fantasy. A complete side note. Where is it?
And with this story,
this right here, people starting to wear straw hats. I still think, like, the fantasy of the straw hat, obviously implying no richness, no wealth, nothing, is just a straw hat, turning out to be the one true crown, or something like that. I think that would also fit, like, thematically very well in terms of, like, equality and friendship and blah, 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 and all that, right? Well, let me watch this until the end, because, again, this fits very well. But
it transmits to join together in party rather than war. And this is exactly where Emu matches the parallel opposite of Joy Boy. We've seen Emu doing the complete opposite by creating their own opposite of the One Piece, the comic of Sora, the Warrior of the Sea. A story that brainwashes children into believing the undisputed might and power of the world government, with Sora being literally the opposite of the Warrior of Liberation, the Warrior of the Sea, literally embodying propaganda of the sea Emu themselves. But on the other hand, the One Piece is a story that tells...
By the way, another fun fact, well, not a fun fact, another thing, looking at this right now, Warrior of the Sea, Warrior of Liberation, think about how random Sora's existence in the world of One Piece is. It is so random, it has to be purposeful. This is how I always think about these things. Is it something that could reasonably happen accidentally? You know, like a serendipitous outcome that happens in the story of One Piece that just somehow manages to fit. I can't think of any good examples off the top of my head, but just, there are probably some, right? Just something that happens to work out in the long run and works very, very well, right? With a fictional comic book in the story of One Piece, this is something that feels very deliberate because it is very different from everything else. So when you juxtapose it to potentially a Joy Boy manga existing in universe, I think that is very, very good good evidence. Because it feels very deliberate and as if it's building towards something. So again, there is very good evidence. It fits extremely well. But I have mixed thoughts.
The Warrior of the Sea, literally embodying propaganda of the sea Emu themselves. But on the other hand, the One Piece is a story that tells the truth of history and the ideals of the people of the ancient kingdom, but romanticizes it in a goofy and entertaining way that those themes can hit much more profoundly to future generations, much like the One Piece manga has done in our world as well. Even if you don't fully understand the depth of the themes the story presents or aren't as interested in them, One Piece will still share its infectious joy with you. As you see this stretchy, rubbery boy go on his silly adventures and having fun, it brings a smile on your face and liberates you from the worries and pains of your life. Luffy, having now become Joy Boy through his fruit, makes his presence throughout the One Piece manga just like that of the in-world Being Sasaki, and through that story he will bring laughter and joy to all the people in the world. Now, I'm not saying that Oda is going to break the fourth wall and self-insert himself into the story as the writer.
I'd honestly want that. I honestly want to see Oda in the manga. I'm gonna be honest.
Or anything, but rather that the One Piece treasure being a manga is a symbolic representation of how important the manga itself is to all those of us who read it to get to this point. The real treasure is so much more than the friends we made along the way. It's the actual journey.
It is the friends we made along the way, though.
The adventure, the manga that we took to find the One Piece, only to realize that it was literally in front of our eyes all along. It was the very experience, all the memories, all all the hype moments, all the bittersweet moments, all that we have shared with this community, all the joy, the tears, and the laughter that this silly story about a robbery boy has given us. And that is exactly what the real One Piece treasure is all about. It's the very story that has inspired us to keep on living, to keep on loving, and to keep sharing the joy with the whole world. There is no bigger treasure than the very story that brings us all together as one piece. However, this is good and all, but this is all simply a theory. How can I stand behind this theory without proving that it could become reality? Could a fictional figure really inspire people of an ancient kingdom so much to bring people from all over the world to simply party together? So to prove my theory, I decide to do just that.
Oh yeah.
Real life. 2 years ago, when I published the first episode of this massive Mega Theory series and said that Luffy's true dream is to throw the biggest party in the world, I mentioned how much like Luffy, I also had a dream of my own, to throw the biggest One Piece party in the world. And with the help of my friends, we finally made it a reality. Luffy, our Joy Boy, inspired us to make his dream come true by throwing together the biggest party the One Piece community has ever seen. We all sang Bing Sasaki together, party together, and share our united joy for this beautiful, ever-wondering, never-ending laugh tale. The story that is the One Piece.
That's a very, very good transition. That is a very good transition. Oh, that is perfect. Okay, that was a very, very good. This is awesome. I like this. All right, let's talk about this. Let me put it this way. I think this is probably the best way it could end. Like, I still have some feelings about it that I don't know how I would react, because like I don't even think it's fully rational. I think it's just like me being sort of afraid that it would end ever. But in terms of an ending and in terms of satisfying readers, I genuinely think that it being something like a manga, as much as I talked around it, out of everything I've heard, I think it would be the best ending that works like perfectly. Because a big treasure, just literally treasure, it would be the most boring thing ever. If it's like a bottle of sake, who cares? If it's something super abstract, then it has the problem of not really hitting, you know? There are a lot of, like, let me put it this way, I think there are more problems to other endings than there are to this one. This one fits so well that I buy it. I don't know, because I'm thinking about it like in universe, right? Because on a very, very big picture level, it's perfect. I love it. It works. But in universe, I'm not sure it works. The manga itself fits the wealth, second highest selling comic in the world, fame, one of the most famous. I know, I've read all of that. I don't think that is the message of it, because that is, it's a little bit like self-obsessed, you know? It's like, oh, fame, wealth, power. Well, turns out all of that was me. It was my thing. I don't think that's really, giving people the power to continue my lives at its worst. One more week, I feel this personally. I get that. I don't really think that's what it's going for, though. At the same time, though, I kinda dig it as well. Like, fame, wealth, power, and all of this just lies in a simple book. Like, all of this, I put it all in one place. I don't know. I don't know. If it's a comic book, and people genuinely, like, believe in it, right? Luffy had to exist to manifest that comic book in reality. But why not spread the... Like, again, I'm playing devil's advocate now. Why not use the comic book to give people hope that they will one day be saved, you know? Why not already use it as a tool to make people excited for Joy Boy's return? That's like number one. The one problem that I can already... Like, why didn't Roger just straight up publish the One Piece manga then? Something like that. I always thought it was a poneglyph with information, so a story would kind of be that. Same. A poneglyph detailing the history would be kind of good. I would like that. But then the line about being early doesn't really fit. Like, unless it's talking about Luffy specifically. It wasn't finished. One Piece won't be finished until Luffy finds it. Well, yeah, but it still doesn't really change anything, you know? You could still show it to people. I'm playing devil's advocate. I'm trying to poke holes in it deliberately. But other than that, I think it fits. I think it fits really, really well. I'm not sure how people would react to it, but it fits, and it fits really well. I like it. I like it. Like, if you gave me the option to choose an ending, this is probably the one I would choose above everything else, basically. Because I've thought about the ending of One Piece to ad nauseum, and no matter what I think of, I feel like it wouldn't really live up to the expectations of why all of this was worth it, and it doesn't really make sense considering what we already know, right? Like, my running theory was always that Luffy's dream is to turn everyone into a pirate, right? It's a ridiculous dream that makes no sense, but from Luffy's perspective, everyone being a pirate just means everyone's free, and everyone's sort of buddies, and they can do whatever they want. Which, again, makes sense with this ending. So, this ending is not just that it fits well, I think it also is a catch-all of like 50 other different endings, because it's just so all-encompassing, if that makes sense. I think it's a neat theory. People probably wouldn't like it only because it will eventually end. Yeah. Because I think, like, again, finding just a book, I don't know. I genuinely don't know how people would react. Because it's like, it doesn't really give immediate closure, if that makes sense. And another important thing, by the way, like, complete side note, a very, very important detail in all of this is, I think, the order of the events that happen, right? Because right now, a lot of people have been talking about what comes next, the journey to Laugh Tale, or a fight against the world government, right? Like, the order there's still people arguing for either side. If the journey to Laugh Tale is the very, very final thing, then I think this ending makes far more sense, you know? If we journey to Laugh Tale before we settle all of the world's problems, then it might sort of feel bizarre. To me, what makes most sense is going to Laugh Tale obviously last. Like the very, very last thing. But I don't really know. So many of these things, like the biggest bit, like this is weird, I know, but the biggest bit of evidence for me for this entire theory is the Joy Boy and the Germa soldier thingy. Because the comic book, I didn't even think about that. The comic book feels like such an artificial thing in the world of One Piece that it has to be leading to something, if that makes sense. It was somewhere in the video. Even without this theory, going to Laugh Tale before taking down the world government makes no sense. A lot of people have talked about like the location of the poneglyphs and stuff like that, right? So I think that's where all that comes from. I don't really know. I think, yeah, going to Laugh Tale as the very, very last thing is what makes the most sense. We still have Lodestar, right? So that's like another thing that complicates everything. It's not just Laugh Tale, it's also when do we go to Lodestar? Because Lodestar has been built up with a purpose, you know? If it didn't have a purpose, Laugh Tale wouldn't lie beyond the Grand Line. There'd be no reason for that. So clearly we are also going to go to Lodestar, which to me seems like the perfect location to face Blackbeard. Like, again, there are just so many moving pieces in this that, I don't know. It's a weird one. Like Lodestar, it's been penned in very, very explicitly. I don't think it's like a red herring or anything. I think Lodestar is an important location. Because think about it this way. If it wasn't an important location, why would Laugh Tale in Zou be rewritten to lie beyond the Grand Line? Because thus far in the series, we had also always thought that that Laugh Tale is just the final island of the Grand Line, right? So if there was no reason for Lodestar to explicitly be a separate island, I don't think that would have just happened. I think, like, even saying that, you can't say, well, you know, putting it beyond the Grand Line just gives it more flavor, blah, 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 and also explains why maybe someone else didn't find it and all that. But, like, all of those, I feel like, are explanations that don't really explain the core problem, if you will. I really like this theory. I like this theory, and I really don't like this theory. I am very, very mixed on this theory, mostly because I think it's a theory about the ending that actually makes sense. It makes me scared. I have very, very weird feelings about this theory. I don't think I have, like, a single bit of evidence that I really disagree with. The only thing, like, again, I think this might be a bit of reverse causality. I think the song of Bing Sasake might not be like Joy Boy, but rather be written about Joy Boy, right? But that ultimately doesn't really change anything. Also, in terms of the straw hat, like, what's the point of the big straw hat? That is something that also makes me confused in the context of this, right? So what's the deal with the straw hat at all? So the straw hat is another big thing that sort of makes me confused. Roger laughing, this right here, it stun-locked me. This panel right here, how is no one talking about this? Has this been talked about? This feels like something that should be talked about a lot. Because I'm just like, again, like even... Okay. Let me poke another hole in all of this. If Luffy is supposed to be the prophesized savior, but so many times we've seen that Luffy is almost just as Roger, right? So what really separated Luffy from Roger, and why is Roger not Joy Boy? Another small thing, that is, the simple explanation is just Roger didn't have the fruit. That is literally the simple explanation, so he wasn't the prophesized savior, you know? He fit everything, but he didn't have the last tick box. But why is it so? If it is just the manga, you know? I'm trying to poke holes in it, but I like the theory. I really like the theory. I'll link it in chat. As usual, Archer's videos are very informative, very well researched, and have all the One Piece evidence. Let me link it right here. Give it a watch. Give it a like. Let me read a few of the comments. I feel like you hit all the spots except for one. The treasure needs to be itself valuable, whether it's magical sake, a magical story, or a magical instrument that brings people together. It should be the thing that turns Luffy's dream into reality, not symbolically or thematically. The fact that Roger left it there because he was too early means that he didn't have all the keys and that the treasure there is missing one piece to turn the world upside down. I mean, thematically, the Bell of Shandora was exactly that kind of treasure, which brought people together at a very long distance. Also, very good point. Very good point. Maybe it's something that literally, which, to be fair, like, again, to play devil's advocate in the opposite direction, we do have Big News Morgan, who could very quickly print the manga in-universe. And just like everyone wore straw hats, everyone could start reading the One Piece manga within the One Piece manga, you know? Maybe it's something that literally complements the drums of liberation, which are Luffy's heartbeat, the hands of liberation that brings people together regardless of distance, the ancient weapons that bring down barriers to the world, the mountains of Wano, the people of Fishman Island to the surface, the Red Line of Calm Belts, okay? Maybe it's all of these things combined into one single invitation told in a song. A promise to meet at the town where it all began. Maybe even a celebration of a new cycle, a new dawn, during a polar shift of 90 degrees. I feel like the history of the world in a comic from being present at Laugh Tale is perfect, though I think that the missing One Piece will have to be something more instantly wish-granting. This is a very good point. And this is what I mean. This is what I said at the very, very start, right? It being a book fits perfectly, but it doesn't have like a tangible vibe to it. That's like the biggest thing to me. It doesn't feel tangible. Just like ironically, I think the One Piece being the journey that we experienced and the friends we made along the way, it's cliche, but it works perfectly. It literally is the adventures we had, but it's not tangible, and it's like, okay, cool, but what about everything else? You know, it's missing that little bit of spice to it that's like, oh my god. What if him finding the One Piece created the need for creation and eventual realization of all problems? Like if Roger didn't find it, neither would Luffy, and so making Luffy destined to solve them? Well, there is the prophecy, right? It goes back far beyond Roger. The prophecy of Joy Boy, right? But, because like, if this, like, another thing that I feel like I need to mention, if this was the world of Game of Thrones, I would be like, all of this makes perfect sense, sign me up. You know? Because, like the prophecy of Azor Ahai, for example, it was, so many people fit the bill, you know? So the prophecy of Azor Ahai, by design, is so ambiguous that it sort of sows doubt into what we're talking about. With One Piece, it's not really that sort of story, and Luffy is obviously the one we are talking about, you know? So I feel like there's also a question of context. So if Roger's existence is merely to facilitate Luffy freeing the world, I don't know, it feels kind of odd. It's kind of odd. I totally believe if I would have made the One Piece to be the One Piece itself, hey Oda, what's the One Piece? One Piece is One Piece laughs. No, what it really is, Oda laughs harder. Exactly, right? It all makes sense, just like how Rayleigh says, yeah, we know we learned the entire history. Yeah, I guess. I think part of what made Roger laugh is because of how big the bottle of sake is. If everyone's meant to partake, like half as big as Oars maybe, the idea alone making him laugh. Oh my god, it's about the Beatles again. The amount of theories I've already seen about the Beatles is like insane to me. Because Luffy has mentioned Beatles a few times. Just imagine if Roger was actually reading Volume 1 of One Piece, that they were all laughing over how Luffy was making fun of Kobe for how pathetic he was. Yeah, like, I think of all of this is like the biggest thing that I feel like has put into words my thoughts, right? It being a comic is perfect, but it's missing that tangible aspect to it that really hits deep for us immediately. Because like, what's more tangible than the thing that we have been reading? You know, it is so tangible that we've literally experienced it for the past 20 years. It's like as tangible as you can get. But at the same time, reading it on a page, it's missing that tangible vibe. It's a very weird issue to have, but I think it's valid. Other than that, a very, very good theory. A very good theory, and I buy it. What if he's laughing at the last page of last chapter, everyone's drinking the biggest bottle of alcohol? It would be kind of goofy because Luffy doesn't drink. That would be the goofiest part to me. Because Luffy would arrive and he's like, oh, that's kind of goofy. I don't even want it. They're loofing that Shanks lost his arm to a Sea King and gave Roger's hat to a dumbass kid. So, basically, I've spent 55 minutes talking about this. Two big things. It's missing a tangible vibe to it. It doesn't really explain the symbolism of the Straw Hat, which to me feels like something that should be very, very important, right? Because when I first saw the big Straw Hat, I immediately got to thinking about the original kingdom potentially being like a band of farmers or something like that, to like deliberately contrast you know, Marie Joie and their wealth and everything like that, right? Because it's just a simple Straw Hat and it's carried on as tradition, right? So that's like number two. It's missing the Straw Hat angle to it. And number three is like, yeah, if it's just a book in universe, it feels kind of, it fits and it doesn't fit. It's weird. Very good theory though. A very good theory. I enjoyed it.